Alright, how's it going, everyone? Normally I don't make these type of videos, and I don't really use my YouTube channel too much, but this is something that has really been bothering me for a while, and I figured that I want to make a video on this topic, and it's personally what I think is wrong with League of Legends as a game right now, and why people are saying that it's in a bad spot, and what my thoughts on the game are. And for I'm just gonna put this out there. I actually do agree that League is in not the greatest spot right now. I don't think it's in a terrible spot, but as you'll see, I have some very valid points. I'm going to introduce what I think is wrong with the game, as you can see right here, and then I'm going to discuss the solutions to the problems. So we'll go ahead and start off at the top. So autofill. Autofill is a problem in a high elo. It's much too common, and it's actually what causes a lot of games to be lost. It happened to me yesterday. It's actually one of the games that caused me to demote from Master Tier, which is not really why I'm super frustrated with it. It's always bothered me, but I feel like right now in particular, it is becoming more and more prevalent, and that is becoming a really big issue because autofill is meant to reduce queue times, but it's doing so at the cost of lowering the quality of games significantly to the point where games feel like complete coin tosses. And I feel like this is where people are getting that mentality that League is a lot of times a coin toss is from autofill. I feel like most of that results from autofill, which is, I don't know. I think that's a very unhealthy thing to add into the game, and it's been here for a very long time. So, um, and people are finally beginning to express their frustration with it, as am I. So that's the first issue that I wanted to discuss. And like I said, after I go through these, I will discuss a solution that I think would be very effective in helping alleviate the problem. Next up, I want to talk about the report system. It is greatly flawed, as it says here. I'll just read everything that I have, and then I'll summarize it. So say that it's greatly flawed and only targets the toxic players, not the trolls or AFK players. So I wrote this earlier today, and of course everything I wrote here is I still agree with it all. So I believe that this is something I actually contacted Riot about the report system, because there was 2 games in a row. I remember, actually maybe even 3, about like 3 weeks ago, where I had 2 people on my team, one person and then the next person. They weren't the same people, but it was in around Diamond 1 Elo, and they both were quote unquote soft inting, which means that they were not hard. They were not, how do I put this? They were not running it down per se, but they were there was no way that they were playing that game at a diamond level. That they were not trying, clearly, and it was very apparent that they were not trying. But what Riot wants to do is kind of ignore that, and they want to target the people who are only hard inting, and it's very apparent that they were hard inting. But they are greatly overlooking the people who are just clearly giving up and not really trying, and are focusing far too much on the toxicity of the game, which is, I agree, should be addressed, but they should not do it so much to the point where you are neglecting another portion of players that should be punished for their, how do I say this, for their misdemeanors, I guess. It's just a very flawed system overall, and there's far too many players. I run into so many players who I have reported and typed up a lengthy paragraph about why they should be banned or why they should be punished, even for a day, to kind of, you know, they deserve some punishment for inting a game or soft inting a game or just giving up, right? And so like 9 people can report that person, and they will not be punished. But then again, there was, and I think Tyler One was even talking about this, and I actually agree with him. He was saying how, let's say you call that somebody like a degenerate or something, or you insult that person who's doing that. If you get like 3 or 4 reports, you will be banned or punished a lot of the time, because that is considered a toxic remark, even though you were trying your hardest in the game. But there will be the people who clearly gave up the game and were not trying at all, those people will continue to play the game, which is completely not fair, and they are treating toxicity completely the wrong way. They are completely dealing with this the wrong way. So they're putting way too much emphasis on toxicity and not enough on trolls or AFK players. So that's my 2 cents on that. Next up, this is more about the in-game things. I want to talk about Rift Herald and why I think it's a very, very bad addition to the game. It results in games ending too quickly, and it snowballs them out of control. Simply put, it is too strong of an objective, in my opinion. It's a bit of a problem that has been prevalent for a while, where games are starting to end too quickly. I know that Riot was making an effort to do that in the past because games were lasting too long, but now it's to the point where if you go on certain stat sites like League of Graphs, you can look at the game durations, and you can see that game durations are all from Bronze to Challenger within 5 to 6 to 7 minutes of each other. So, like even in Bronze games, Silver games, the average time for those games are, I believe, 27 to 28 minutes, when they used to be around 40 minutes or 35 minutes even. And in Master Tier and Challenger Tier and High Diamond, which is what I was, it is even lower. It's around 23 minutes. So games are ending far too quickly, and a lot of that results for 2 reasons. One of them, I think Rift Herald very, very greatly contributes to that. And also, this goes back to autofill. It kind of also contributes to that. There being too many autofill players and not a balance of them on each team results in games ending too quickly because they're less experienced on the role than the other person. So, and especially if that is in bot lane or jungle, it is greatly enhanced because those are arguably the two most impactful roles right now. So, that's how I feel about Rift Herald, and there's not much more to say about it. All right, on to Dragon RNG. This is a bit of an underrated issue, and I feel like there's nobody else who really talks about it, and I guess the same could go with Rift Herald, that not that many people talk about these two and why they're a problem. But Dragon RNG is becoming seriously problematic, and that is because games are simply turned by a dragon that spawns, and it's completely based around RNG, meaning that games are ending quicker because of random number generator and not by just like a system that is consistent, which I believe is a very unhealthy mechanic to the game, or a very unhealthy concept in the game, to have something that's an objective that is so RNG focused. Really, really discourages like comebacks, I feel like. For example, like if a team were to get 3 Infernals in a row, then they could completely snowball a game, and there would be absolutely no chance of coming back because that is 24% damage increase for the entire team, or a 24% increase for AD and AP, which is a huge advantage. I definitely agree that something like the Dragons should be in the game, but they should definitely be not in RNG, and they should be I'll talk about that later, but that's my 2 cents on Dragon. I think it is a very, very flawed objective at the moment. And a lot of the big objectives I'm talking about. Next up is Baron. It's currently what I think about Baron. It is too easy to take right now for how powerful, strong, and a game-changing of an objective it can be. So this, again, goes back to games ending too quickly a little bit. And I don't think games should be ending at 45 minutes. I think 35-ish is okay for, like, Bronze to Silver to Gold. 30 to 35 or 30 to 40 minutes is okay. And if you're getting to like Master and Challenger, I think it should be like anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes, not like 23 minutes to 30 minutes. It's just simply not as fun to have a game end that quickly. So I think Baron is a little bit too weak after the nerfs they did to it. It resulted in a lot of players being able to rush Baron at 20 minutes because of how little damage it does. Even though they increase the health, that doesn't really matter because there are certain teams with the right team comp that can still rush it. Especially, this goes back to the Dragon RNG, where if you have 2 mountain dragons or 3 at that point, you can completely shred Baron, and that will cause, since you're taking no damage, the enemy team will not be able to contest it if you even have someone who's remotely tanky. So it causes way too little room for contesting the Baron, and it is just, I think it's too weak for how strong it is. It's simply too easy to take for how game-changing of an objective it can be. I do agree that it should be game-changing, but I don't think that it is in the best spot right now. And this next one is talking about Riot Games as a whole. They tend to have this mentality. There's no solution to this. This is just them, their own thing. But I personally believe that they have the mentality that simply adding new things to the game will fix the existing problems instead of finding a direct solution to the ones currently. So this is just my 2 cents. I felt like I wanted to throw it in there, even though it's not like completely about the game. It's more about the company behind the game. But I still stay true to this statement, and I stick to this statement that adding new things to the game will not really fix the problem, and oftentimes it can make things worse, which is, I think, in the case of Autofill, made things a lot worse. But Autofill is more specific to high elo rather than low elo, and they were attempting with Autofill to make the game more based around high elo instead of low elo, which I think was a good thing, but they just did it incorrectly. So it kind of results in the game still being balanced around low elo, which doesn't make sense because low elo is anything can work, as to where in high elo players are much better, obviously, and they know what to do, so not everything will work as well in high elo. So therefore, even though the player base, there's more players in high elo, or there's more players in low elo rather than high elo, much more, it makes less sense to base it around those players simply because they're not as good at the game. So, and because anything can work. So it would make much more sense to base the game around high elo. Okay, now, to introduce the solutions to the problems, for Autofill, the system should be in a way that players can choose 3 roles instead of 2 in a lobby. So, like, in the lobby, there should be, instead of, like, let's say I choose mid and top as my 2 roles, it should be mid, top, or I could choose, let's say, mid, top, and jungle, or something like that. Mid, top, and support, mid, top, and AD carry. So choose 3 roles, so there's a greater variety in things, because most people can play 2 to 3 roles pretty well, I would say. So, or at least maybe the 3rd role not quite as comfortable, but it's much better than being autofilled to an alternative. So this would help balance out while also reducing queue times and increasing the quality of games at the same time. Or if this is not what they want to do, they should at least make it so that each team has the equal amount of autofills. So therefore, if a team is going to have autofills, this will still reduce queue timers, maybe not as much, but it will at least make it so that the games are a little bit more balanced and they don't snowball out of control as quickly because one team has less autofills than the other. Okay, now onto the report system. I think they should investigate players more thoroughly and actually watch the replays of a game, because I don't think they really do that very often. They don't really watch the replays, they only look at the chat logs, really, which is why so many players get banned off of calling somebody like a retard or something. And so they should use that to determine if a ban is justified based off of their gameplay. This is talking about trolls or people who give up or AFKs or feeder, like soft inting players. So currently there's, I believe, a bot in place that can detect people who are intentionally feeding, but that bot is not really able to detect players who are soft inting. So a report system like this, where somebody at Riot could investigate a replay of a game to determine if a ban would be justified, and they could watch, for example, if somebody was doing something like just standing there or completely, very blatantly walking into like 5 people or something, and saying like, "Oh, my bad," in chat, and without realizing it. And let's say this is like master tier, which is what I saw the other day in master tier. Somebody was doing that on my team, and they were not punished. So nobody in master tier is going to make a play like that, really, when they clearly know that the enemy team is right there, but they walk into it anyway. But Riot currently will not be able to detect that. So they should definitely investigate these types of games when a report is sent in by multiple people. Like, I understand if they don't do it for one or two reports, but they definitely should for 3 or 4 or even more than that. And especially, I think they should also do it, actually. I take that back. They should definitely do it if, even if only a couple people report, they should take note of what they say in the box if they type in a lengthy explanation of what they do. They shouldn't ignore that either, which I feel like goes overlooked for way too long. All right, next up, to fix the Rift Herald problem, I think they should nerf the damage by at least 15%. So this will make it so that, or move the spawn timer back to result in less snowbally games. I'll read this off real quick, and more of a chance to come back, especially in higher elos. So I know I'm talking a lot about lower or increasing the game time, and this is because I think League is supposed to be a fun game, which obviously, I mean, if you're playing a game, you want to have fun, right? So, this is a problem because it's causing games to end too quickly, and it feels more like a grind than having fun. And it feels like when the games are ending this quickly, it's becoming very problematic. I don't really mind the fact that there's early game champions and meta. That's fine, or like the Scuttle Crab even, which is kind of a snowbally a mini objective. But these things add to that so much to the point where a game is completely decided by the first 10 minutes in high elo, which is, again, they are not balancing the game around the better players and balancing it around the majority, which in this particular case is a very bad decision. So that's how I believe that Rift Herald should be fixed. Next, dragons, the dragon RNG rather. They should change it back to what it was previously and make dragons go in order. But increase the stats they give. So this means that not only, like, because right now, if you get 3 Infernals or whatever, or 2, it's like 16% off 2 and 24% off of 3. So you would only be able to get 1 of each dragon if the game were to go out longer, but since the games are going out longer, there's a good chance you'll be able to get multiple dragons anyway. So, this will make it so that dragons will be more impactful, but they will not give quite as much as other ones. They will not be RNG, like if you were to get multiple of them, but they will not be as RNG focused, and you can actually know and base your play around what is coming. So, and I think that the spawn duration should also be decreased to 4 minutes. I believe it's 5 minutes right now. This could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 5 minutes instead of 4, and make the first drag spawn at 4 minutes instead of 3 minutes. This is to discourage any, like, early game junglers, that, like Nunu or stuff, that can take these dragons very uncontested. This is not that much of a problem because you can always ward a dragon really early and stop that. But I just think it's better to spawn it a little bit later. And decrease the spawn duration between dragons to 4 minutes so that you have more of an opportunity to get the dragons that are spaced out. Because I think it's wrong that some dragons go completely untouched in games. Like, you could have like 3 Infernals and no clouds or no oceans, and then you could have like a mountain, or you could have 3 oceans and no Infernals. So again, RNG kind of discourages other dragons a lot, and so this will make it so that since the spawn is less, that after you take it, you can play more around the objective, and the objective matters a bit more, and they go in order so that it's just healthier for the game, in my opinion, to have the dragons like this, kind of like they used to be. And the order that I think they should go is, I think Ocean should go first, because Ocean is arguably the greatest impact in lane. And the reason why I think this should go first, even though I said I don't want games to be too snowbally, even though this would kind of encourage that, is that I don't think that snowballing is a bad thing, but I think it is a bad thing when games are ending 15 minutes sooner when they used to. So I think having a little bit of snowball effect is okay, but not having 3 Infernal spawn with 0 chance of coming back is okay. So Ocean should be first but they should increase the health and mana regen. I don't know the exact stats of it, but it should be increased to the point where it does matter a bit more than if an Ocean Dragon were to spawn right now. The second should be a mountain dragon, but they should also do the same thing like I said before. They should increase the damage to objectives slightly. Not too much, because then that would, that would kind of cause a misbalance, and you could take stuff way too early. So I think that Mountain should be a little bit less buffed, because Mountain is arguably it's almost tied with Infernal with being how strong they are, because Mountain is able to allow you to take objectives so fast and rush Barons so fast. So I think that one should come second, and then I think Cloud should come third, but you should increase the movement speed out of combat to encourage the mid-game roaming. So that if both teams are playing around the dragon, that the dragon will spawn by around, the third dragon will spawn by around, I'd say around 20 minutes probably. But since that's around the time that laning phase gets done even earlier than that nowadays, this will encourage faster rotations, and it will also encourage more players to contest this dragon when it's up, because it is mid-game, which requires a lot of because oftentimes mid laners will go to side lanes, right, to obtain side XP, and this will encourage them to actually help out with the dragon, and because it will have more impact in the mid game, which is when it will most likely be taken. Infernal is the last one, because this should be more of a late game objective, in my opinion, not an early game snowballing tool. But they should increase the damage from 8% to 12%. This is, I don't know if this is 100% the best change, and this is the only one where I have the exact numbers on. I know Infernal gives 8% a time. The other ones, I'm just kind of being a little bit vague. But Infernal, I think, we could honestly change this to be anywhere from 12 to 14%. So if they can get it anywhere in between there, I think it's fine. But currently having 3 Infernals, like I said, is very oppressive. Having one focus more towards the late game would be a lot better for games, I think, because by that point, the game hopefully will not be too snowballed. It encourages comeback potential if you were able to steal the objective or get the objective, and it doesn't encourage the heavy snowballing effect that it has right now, while it also does increase the amount that it gives to make it worthwhile going for that late in the game. And lastly, for dragons, I want to talk about the Elder. They should still double the effects of the dragons that you have. So let's say you have an ocean and a mountain. It will still double the effects of those, but it will also increase the true damage. I don't think it should not double the effects, because I think that if you're doubling the effects of these, since they're already increased, that is fine. But Elder currently feels a little bit underwhelming. I feel like it's not really a win condition. Oftentimes, it just feels like Baron is much stronger. So this will increase. I think increasing the true damage dealt over time will become much more impactful in a team fight, and will allow you to close out a game, kind of similar to how Baron allows you to close out a game. So I agree. I'm not saying that games should never end, or not end soon, at 35 minutes or whatever. I don't think they should last until 60 minutes every game. So I encourage game ending, and I feel like Elder is not doing quite a good of a job right now of doing that, or being the more of a team fight oriented objective than Baron. Baron's more of a sieging objective and objective power play type of thing, and Elder is more of something you want to get when you have dragons already. So and then I want to go on to talking lastly about Baron. This is where, and a lot of people are talking about this, they should increase the amount of damage significantly that it does, pretty much back to what it used to be, so that you can't just have somebody who's not tanky at all being able to tank it and shred the Baron. But they should reduce the damage, or they should reduce the health slightly to make Baron more of a threat damage-wise and less health-wise, because currently there's a lot of champions with percent health or mixed damage, or that are building Ginsu's Rageblade and stuff. For example, Kai'Sa. AD carries take the Baron very fast, and you don't really require a tank because of the damage reduction. But since these guys are already doing so much damage anyway to the Baron, reducing the health slightly by 1 or 2k won't really make much of a difference. So, because Smite still exists and stuff like that. to secure it. So it won't make much of a difference, but the damage will definitely, and it will punish teams more heavily if they're trying to rush the Baron early when they lack the amount of tankiness to do so. So, and reducing it health-wise, I think is also fine because there will not be that risk of the triple mountain RNG if we were to go by this dragon system, which would therefore make it so that you will not have double or triple mountain by 20 minutes, and it will not cause you to be able to take the Baron in like 3 seconds. So I think that would be a lot healthier for the game. And they should also reduce the XP that it gives, but increase the bonus AD/AP. I think that currently, right now, Baron is a little bit too strong. Like I said, it's a little too strong in what it gives, but not too strong in how easily it is to take or like to contest. So because of how little of damage that it does, so you feel like you can't really contest it. So I think, excuse me, I think that it currently gives a little bit too much XP, which causes a lot of players. Like I've had these types of games where I've lost Baron or something, or I've gotten Baron. Let's say I've gotten Baron, and my enemy is now 3 levels below me or 2 levels below me when they were 1 level below me prior to that, or the enemy vice versa, and then makes it impossible to 1v1 them, which is really the only way that you can come back after a Baron is to get a pick, really. Grouping is not very much an option unless the enemy team has much less of a team fighting comp than you, and they decide to group with that instead, which is more of their mistake. So it doesn't allow you to be able to outplay your opponent as much because XP is more important than base stats. So, or like the additional stats. So they should increase the bonus AD/AP, but they definitely should reduce the XP. So like I don't think they should increase the bonus AD/AP that much, but they should increase it at least like 10 or 15 because I think it gives right now I believe I think maybe like 30 AD and 50 AP or something, or 35 AD and 50 AP. So maybe making it so that it gives like 60 AP and then like 45 AD or something like that. So it still allows you to be stronger, but it doesn't allow you to be able to be multiple levels up on your opponent just from getting one objective that is extremely easy to take as it is. So these are my changes, guys. These are what I believe I think will make the game a lot better, although these will probably go unignored. These will probably go ignored and will not be acknowledged, which is kind of goes into what to this right here. Riot Games kind of doesn't. I was thinking about adding that. They don't really listen to the higher player base and pro players very much, and the balanced team is usually consisting of lower elo players. So, which is again another example of them balancing the game around lower elo instead of higher elo, which I discussed earlier is not a good idea. So, these are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below of why I think what these problems are. I still love League of Legends, don't get me wrong. I'm not expecting the game to be perfect. Notice how I didn't include anything like gameplay-wise other than like the objectives. I didn't include champions. Like I think really the only champion that's a problem right now, if I'm going to be completely honest, is Zoe. Because Zoe is also RNG, and you know how much I don't like RNG. Thus, I have this right here. So, I think Zoe's really the only champion that's a problem, but I didn't even bother to include her because you can ban it. These things you can't just ban. So, Zoe you can ban. And that's kind of another reason why I'm kind of going off on a bit of a tangent, but I want to say this because this is something I was going to say, but I forgot. With toxic players, you can mute them, but with trolls or AFKs, you cannot mute them. These are what you're stuck with. These you can eliminate. There's a mute button for a reason, so it doesn't make any sense to target toxic players when there's a solution, a direct solution to that in-game, over trolls and AFKs that you are stuck with in-game. There is not a button that you can press to get that person out of the game. You are stuck with the troll or AFK or the enter in your game. So that causes a lot of problems. This is another reason why. That goes into what I think is another problem. So, yeah, those were a couple last things, comments that I wanted to kind of throw in there. My last 2 cents about the game. Let me know, like I said, let me know what you guys think about these changes. And I didn't want to just say what I think is a problem. I also made sure to cover all my bases and include solutions to the problems relatively in detail. I talked about them much greater in detail than I wrote out. This was just a summary. But anyways, yeah, I don't want to ramble too much longer. This video is already running really long, so I do appreciate you guys for watching this video. I'm not going to really be using my YouTube channel too much, but this is something, like I said at the beginning, that I find to be very important to me, and I don't think this stuff should be overlooked. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe for potential videos in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much.